I got good news and bad news. Let's start with the bad news. Research says that only 15% of first-time church guests return to church. Boy, is that a problem. But I got good news. If you can get a person to come back for not one visit, but for their second visit, that percentage chance of them returning goes up to 85%. That's a humongous opportunity. How in the world do you get somebody to move from a first-time guest to a second-time guest? Because if you can figure that out, you got a lot greater chance of getting them to be deeply connected into the life of your church. What you and I long for is for our church to operate like a funnel. That at the top of the funnel, we would be meeting new people, we would be meeting new families, we would be meeting new singles, we would be meeting new children, we would be meeting new teenagers, we would be meeting new guests. And as they get involved in the life of our church through our systems and our processes and our experiences, that at the bottom of that funnel, they would be people that are being discipled and making disciples and deeply connected into the life of our church. The problem is, a lot of today's churches don't really operate like a funnel as much as they operate like a colander. That's what this research is telling us. We're getting access to new people. We're getting access to Gen Z. We're getting access to moms. We're getting access to potential volunteers. We're getting access to people. But unlike the funnel, our funnel has become a colander. And somewhere along the way, research is telling us they're slipping through the cracks. They're getting lost. They're getting confused. They're leaving our funnel like water slipping through a colander. And we as church leaders have got to find out ways that we can do something about this. How do we get first-time guests to come back for a second visit so they can get deeply connected to the life of our church? Let's find out. So why is it that people don't stay in the funnel of your church? What is it about your funnel that has become a colander? If you're a church leader, this would be a great conversation for you to have with your team. Can you name the potential holes where you're losing potential people that could be a part of your church? Well, I would assume as I hang out with church leaders on a regular basis that one of the reasons churches are struggling to get new people to stay, one of the reasons they're leaving the funnel is they don't feel like they belong at your church. This is a problem. And let's face it, you and I wouldn't go to places we didn't feel like we belonged either. I mean, right across the street from the place that I work, there's a yoga place. My wife is trying to get me to come to do yoga at this yoga place with her. I'm struggling to even consider it. Why? Because I don't feel like I would belong there. And that's how unchurched people or new guests might feel at your church. Just the fact that they would come one time is a huge deal. You realize the insecurity that comes with that? You realize the number of questions and possible confusion that they have just being there for one time? I'll never forget, we were with Annie F. Downs, and she was with us at a conference, and we were teaching and leading, serving church pastors, church leaders together. And she said, on behalf of singles, one of the things that singles want to tell churches is that only time we feel comfortable in a church is not in the lobby, it's not at the front door, it's not on the way to the auditorium. It's not any of those places. In fact, we feel weird in pretty much all of those places. The only time we feel comfortable is when we get in the auditorium, the lights go dim, and the service finally starts. If she's only halfway right, and if that's partly how singles feel, imagine if maybe all demographics in your church may feel that way in some form or fashion. That's one reason they're leaving your colander. Another reason they might be leaving your colander and slipping away from your church is they just don't understand the plan. They parked their car, they were able to do that, but beyond that, where do I go? Who are these people? And what's the pathway for me and my family, or me as an individual? Where do I go here? It would be like going to a restaurant where there was no menu and there was no waiter or waitress. There was no signature dish. Like, what do you do? There's a lot of confusion that comes when people don't understand the plan. I remember I took my family, we had moved to a new town, and we're churchgoers. And I remember going to this new church in this new town, and I was super confused about how to get plugged into the life of this church. And finally, I mustered up enough courage to go to one guy that seemed like he had figured it out. And I said, could you just explain to me, like, where do I even go? What are the options here? And he looked at me and said something I'll never forget. He said, you'll figure it out eventually. My heart started to race. That might have been true for me, and to be fair, I did figure it out eventually. But a first-time guest, no way. If they don't understand the plan, you can count on them slipping through your colander. And lastly, I would assume as I hang out with church leaders, one of the reasons they're slipping through your colander is because they just don't perceive the value in the experience that they're getting. And the fact is, people are looking for remarkable experiences, meaningful experiences, visible experiences, valuable experiences, experiences that make their marriage better, their parenting better, their life better, their heart grows stronger, experiences where they find peace and joy and purpose and meaning, experiences that linger in their heart and their mind and make them want to bring those experiences back up later on. When they perceive low value in your church, there's a real good chance they're going to slip right out of your colander. How in the world do you fill up the gaps in these holes so that people stop slipping through and you can figure out how to take somebody from a first-time guest to a second-time guest and eventually get them deeply connected in the life of your church? Let's find out. Let's figure out how to put down our colanders and trade them for funnels. Let me give you 3 great questions that you can ask your team, have great collaboration and dialogue around, and every time you answer one of these questions effectively, you're going to be plugging a hole in your colander and turning it back into a funnel so that new people are actually becoming deeply connected in the life of your church. One question that would be a great discussion with your team is this: do first-time guests feel like they belong in our church? Actually, do they actually feel like they belong here? And what we're not talking about today is, are we a friendly church? The people that you really want to meet the most, they're not looking for people that are waving and smiling. They already know how to get parked in a spot. They realize that you sure are kind and gentle and sweet, but they're not looking for friendly people. You know what they're looking for? They're looking for friends. That couple is looking for somebody to go on a double date with. That teenager is looking for their people. This is what people want. They want to belong. They want to be a part of a community. They want to find their people. And our churches could be the very best in our community at being the most hospitable organization in this town. If you want to find your people, come to our church and we will call you by name. We will go across the room. We will intentionally listen to you, connect with you, and get you connected to other people that can become your people. If you want to plug a hole in your colander, ask your team the question, is this a place where first-time guests belong? Secondly, a question you could ask your team: if you want to move somebody from a first-time guest to a second-time guest and greatly increase your chances of reaching them in a more meaningful way, ask your team this question: do they understand the plan? And if you can effectively answer that question, you'll be plugging another hole in your colander. Do they understand the plan? And this starts with your leadership team. Does your leadership team answer that question the same way? For the church at large, are you able to articulate your church's plan? If a first-time guest came, would they know where the church is and where the church is going? That's for your church at large. Could your volunteers articulate that? And what about not just the plan for the church at large? What about the plan for the guest? So I'm a guest and I'm at your church. Do I have any idea what I'm supposed to do next? I showed up, which took a lot of courage. I took a big risk by coming to your church. What's your pathway for me? What's your plan for me? I'm in this moment, I'm in this group, or I'm in this lobby, or I'm in this conversation, I'm in this auditorium. Have you made it easy for me to know what's an easy next step for me to take? Do you have a plan for me? And every time you can answer that question with clarity and in a way that's aligned with the team at large, you're going to be plugging a hole in that colander. Lastly, you could ask your team, if you want to plug holes in your colander and get first-time guests to come back, you can ask yourself the question, are the experiences that we're offering truly remarkable? Not expensive, not loud, not full of light, smoke, and fireworks. That's not what we mean by remarkable. What we're asking is, are the experiences that we're providing, are they meaningful? Are they valuable? Are they lingering in my mind? Do they make me want to go talk to somebody about it? Am I coming back days later and saying, I can't get out of that out of my mind and heart and body and soul? I'm still thinking about that experience that church created. The people you want to reach, they're looking for remarkable experiences. And every time you provide one, you just plugged another hole in your colander. It's time for us to get better at getting first-time guests to come back for a second visit, because we know that their chances of coming back for a third and beyond greatly increase when we trade a colander for a funnel. Don't forget the stat. This is it. 15% of first-time guests return, but 85% of second-time guests return. So if I'm you, I'm thinking about, where has our funnel become a colander? And maybe your first step is, rather than get defeated of all the ways that they might be slipping through the cracks, why don't you just name one? Just name one hole that you can plug in your colander and give strategic energy to that this week. And watch how it'll help you meet new people and get them to return. This isn't just about church attendance. This is about engagement. This is about real life people really moving down your funnel so that they can be discipled and learn how to make disciples at your church. And when they're engaged, your engagement starts with one goal, and that is this week, just get them to come back one more time. And watch how your church will become more effective at meeting new people and plugging them into the life of your church in the season to come.